Today I'm going to be talking about Matei Calinescu's writings on kitsch from his book Five Faces of Modernity. In this book, Calinescu has taken 5 concepts from the last century and a half or so that have had particular significance and has dissected his understanding of them and their relationship to modernity. These terms are modernity, avant-garde, decadence, kitsch and postmodernism. Throughout his chapter on kitsch, Calinescu discusses why it is such a modernist idea and why it could not really have been present before the late 18th and early 19th century. He states that kitsch stems from the idea that beauty can be bought and sold. Kitsch appears at the time when beauty is socially circulated just as any other commodity would be, due to supply and demand. Kitsch is sociologically an expression of lifestyle, predominantly that of the bourgeoisie or the middle class. Its development is linked to cultural industrialisation, commercialism, and increased leisure in society. Emphasised throughout this chapter also is the thought that kitsch is a concept that centres around the issues of imitation and aesthetic lies. Calinescu divides the chapter into sub-chapters, each one focusing on a specific issue that kitsch as an idea brings up, making it a clear and concise exploration. Early on in the chapter, Calinescu discusses the ideas of Tocqueville in his book Democracy in America, published in 1835, and why kitsch is an unmistakable sign of modernism. He seems to have been the first thinker to analyse the effects that modern democracy has had on the arts, in particular that it has led to a lowering of standards in not only creation but consumption too. Tocqueville states, "The number of consumers increases, but opulent and fastidious consumers become more scarce." From this idea you can see the inducement for artists to produce large numbers of objects or commodities. Calinescu compares Tocqueville's discussion of the hypocrisy of luxury to today's kitsch. Hypocrisy of luxury is the idea that people, especially in the ages of democracy, aspire to appear in a rank that they are not and therefore seek objects that mimic virtue. As a result of this, artists' productions are more copious, but the worth of each production has been reduced. Reality and taste has given way to appearance, objects that are pretty and elegant. Interestingly, Calinescu attributes kitsch to romanticism. He does this because of the rise of popular art and literature. Again, he refers to Tocqueville's writings on this matter. Democracy encourages a taste for literature in the trading classes. They ask for books that can be easily obtained, read and enjoyed. Accustomed as they are to the struggles of toil and practical life, they require quick emotional responses, and authors respond to this with smaller, more rapid executions that stir the passions rather than charm the taste. This understanding can be appropriately applied to kitsch, art as recreation that is easily accessible and with quick, predictable effects. There is a suggestion of the immediate financial rewards of such an attitude. Artists take advantage of the public need for a sense of escape from the mundane routine of daily life. They are addressing themselves to a well-defined audience of average consumers. From this point of view, kitsch is a style that they have adopted as a means of pleasing the average consumer. Calinescu refers to another sociologist of modern culture, Dwight MacDonald, to concur that one of the main reasons for the growth of kitsch since the beginning of the 19th century is the fact that it was a profitable market for business enterprises to meet the cultural demands of the newly awakened masses. The advancement in technology made it possible for the cheap production of books, pictures, music, furniture, in such numbers that would satisfy the demand. Calinescu is keen to emphasise, though, that although it is difficult to escape the association between kitsch and low cost, it is relative. What is regarded as cheap by someone of the upper middle class could be very expensive for somebody who is less well off, and this is an important characteristic of kitsch. Along with the humbler existence of kitsch, there is a form that is the privilege only of the wealthy. Here there is an association with bad taste that can come with financial means for the satisfaction of fancies and whims. Calinescu names the period in the 19th century known as La Belle Époque as an example of this. in particular the extravagant ways of royalty from that time. Kitsch is often supposed to suggest richness, imitation silver or gold, for example, but for those who can afford it, the real thing can be used in much the same way. The idea of instant enjoyment is another that Calinescu discusses, a characteristic of art, and one that the foundation of kitsch is built on, is that it can be immediately turned into a commodity ideal for consumption. There is a general diffusion of art through a range of media, radio, television, magazines, and so forth. Through these, a largely unified audience has emerged, those whose tastes have been manipulated by the technicians of mass culture. It is a tendency for mass mechanical reproductions of art that results in kitsch. That is not to say that a reproduction of a work, a Monet Water Lilies, for example, in a study of art history is kitsch, but it is reproducing the image onto the plate, the bags, umbrellas, and all manner of other things that makes it so. The actual artwork may not be kitsch, it is society's treatment of it for commercial reasons that is. It is this that Calinescu describes as destroying its aesthetic significance. This leads on to a discussion about the term kitsch man. This is a person who experiences things as kitsch even if they are not so. The tourist is an example of a kitsch man who would kitschify cultural monuments, landscapes, and great sites such as the Grand Canyon. The actual site is not kitsch in itself. It is the kitsch man who makes it so. This person wants to fill their spare time with maximum excitement, but for very little effort. Calinescu raises the idea that a key feature of kitsch objects is actually that of suggesting commercial availability. That is, an object is attractive to a consumer not only because it's nice to look at, but because it, or something very similar, can be obtained by any who wish to buy it. There is an inbuilt self-advertisement to such objects, that others will wish to purchase it because others have it and it is recognisable. This, he states, is the reason for the paradoxical idea that such objects are intended to look both genuine but also skillfully fake. There needs to be enough fakiness to remove the impression of rarity that a perfect fake could create. A suggestion of rarity would negate the sense of commercial availability. Calinescu, whilst comparing kitsch to forgery and imitation, is clear to point out that despite widespread opinions, it is not actually equivalent to a forgery. Its aesthetic falsehood is not illegally adopting a sense of elitist taste. In fact, what a kitsch object rests on is its anti-elitist availability and its appeal to the masses.